Well, what Ford knows and what the union knows is that if they don't find human bodies to go and do it, they're going to find industrial automation that will go in there and do it.
This is the sound of our battle cries.
Right, which I'm surprised they didn't bring that up in this article at all. But they didn't. They pose a different solution in this article.
Well, what was the other thing? So that was loading the trains and then the technology gap.
Yeah.
So there is a huge barrier to entry, and there was 20 years ago and there is today. Before you can really even be effective at diagnosing anything on a car, you have to know everything on the car because you have to know what it isn't before you can know what it is. You can't just say, oh, the car doesn't start. It's the battery. Well, the car doesn't start. Well, it's either the electrical system, the powertrain, the drivetrain, the engine, the fuel. It could, you have to know everything so that you can use a strategy-based diagnosis. That's industry keyword. To go down the list and say, hey, what are the most common things? Is it cranking? Whatever. But you have to know it all before you can be an effective diagnostician. And in order to get the money, you have to be at that level where you know it all. And that takes years, probably 3 or 4 years of watching somebody. And when you're watching somebody who knows what they're doing, you're not turning hours.
Right.
If you're supposed to be over here in the corner replacing tires, which anybody can get started with doing that. If you're supposed to be over there in the other corner doing oil changes, and if you're not doing that, if you're standing by the old head learning something, you're not making any money. So you have to you got to turn all of your hours for that day. And then you got to go learn from somebody. And the way to learn from somebody is you do it for them while they're watching you and they're collecting all the money. And that's a tough pill to swallow for everybody. It's always happened that way. And who wants to do that when I can go deliver DoorDash for more money than I made changing oil? So you got to bite that 3-year bullet. Mm-hmm. And then to compound that, some people are saying, I got to go to college to learn that. And yeah, you're going to have an edge if you go to college. You're going to be closer to understanding every component on that car. But until you're hands-on in the dealership, touching people's cars, you haven't learned anything yet. You haven't learned where the rubber meets the road just quite yet. And then, so let's just say that cuts a year or maybe even a 1.5 years or 2 years off. You still have a year of that basically lost time in the dealership while you're finding your way. And then after that year, the first day you got a student loan tuition payment.
Right.
So either you take a 3-year bite and you're working double hard, you're working 70-hour weeks because you got to work 40 just to get your paycheck. And then you got to work another 30 to learn from the guy. Add student loan to that and you're in bad shape.
How many hours did you work when you first got started?
When I first started in the car dealership, I started as a lot attendant, and I worked a bunch of hours doing that. But I begged and pleaded, said, hey, I know how to do an oil change. I know how to do brakes. You can show me how to use the tire machine. I've seen it done. It doesn't look that hard. I can learn how to do that. And when I started, they gave me the opportunity. It took me about 6 months of begging. They gave me the opportunity, gave me a bay, gave me a place to put my toolbox. I didn't have much of a toolbox at that time, but I did have a toolbox. From that day when I started, I worked 4 years straight. I took 1 week off each year because that's all the vacation time I had. And I worked 11 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I often came in on Sundays. So add that up.
Yeah. How old were you when you started?
20 years old at the dealership. So I may have still been 20 years old, but I may have been 21 years old when I started as a mechanic. I don't recall exactly.